Great. So for Constitution Explorer, we're looking at our roadmap essentially to see how we can put together a tool. This tool will help us sort through existing constitutions and tag them according to specific areas. So when the Egyptian people are trying to build their constitution, there's something to refer to. On the tech front, what we essentially need to do is build and populate a database of all the existing constitutions. We'll start with a prototype of 10 constitutions from wiki sources. We want to translate these constitutions into Arabic, and we want to be able to tag this by area of interest, say women's rights or human rights across the constitutions, so people can easily search through it. On a funding level, we want to do a cost estimation of the amount of data we have, just number of pages in each constitution, so we can figure out how we can translate them on Mechanical Turk. We want to crowdfund and to sort of raise funds from the Kickstart website. We put together a proposal which includes a pitch and rewards and incentives so people who do donate on crowdsource. The actual development work will take place during hackathons. So we've got venues for the events. Part of the funding could come from the crowdfund. We want to have them meet periodic, maybe twice a week. How do you populate the hackathons with hackers? The easiest way to go about doing that is on campus, where you use channels of influence, where you send personal messages. Instead of spamming all the hackers on campus, you get their friends to invite them with a personal message to the hackathon, send a reminder text 10 minutes before the hackathon, send reminder texts from people they know during the hackathon. Maybe put together incentives for them to come, and collective action works really well. So all the hackers could meet up in their dorm and then come here together in a group. People like to do things in groups, so if you use channels of influence and this group mobilization, you can get a lot of people to show up. There are lots of hackers on campus, maybe 200 plus web hackers, and if you spam them, you might get 1 or 2% to show up. But if you go through channels of influence and personal messages, you can get a lot more. A little more on just how do you draw developers and how do you engage them. So just on campus, talent-wise, one of our biggest departments is the CS department. This is an approximate number, there's probably 200 plus hackers who will be willing to show up for an event like this. We have web development classes like CS 142. So making announcements at those classes could also be valuable. Engaging the professors in those classes could be valuable. We have like iPhone app development classes. I think the same thing there could draw people. We have ACN, this is the computing group on campus. So a lot of the hackers actually are part of the student group. The president of the student group is very willing to work with new initiatives. So that could be another source. And they also organize weekly hackathons. And they also work with the Code for Change. BASIS has entrepreneurial hackers, and ASSU is a student body which also keeps lists on who does CS and who maps hackers. Acquisition-wise, recruiters, many people use the email spam tactic, where you send spam email lists to try and get people along. But we found that using channels of influence is the most valuable way to get people. We identify those super influencers or connectors and get them to send personal messages to their friends to show up to an event. And this makes it turnouts go through the roof. We actually applied this with voter registration on Stanford's campus. We looked at how do we get students to sign up to vote in the general elections. Campuses tend to have very unusually low levels of voter registration, not because of political apathy, but because the process is enormously complicated. There are 3 sets of forms that have been mailed back and forth from the government physically for you to be signed up as a voter. People just don't know how to do this. So we found out that if we get students, we went dorm to dorm, figured out the key influencers, got students to sit down in groups and sign the forms up together, send them back and forth. So you make that behavior very easy. You give them the pen, give them the paper, and you sit with them, you sign it. So we took voter registration up on campus using this influence model and this behavior change model up to national levels. So if you do the same thing with hackathons, that could be interesting. It's also about adopting of the perspective of the user. When hackers show up, if you give them too broad a goal where they like come up with the entire concept from scratch, it's difficult for people of technical backgrounds to do that because they more work with a project goal in mind, and then they can figure out how to get there. So it's about how do you frame it for a hacker. A goal like, okay, we need to build a database today. Now that's a good goal for a hacker. So with Constitution Explorer, if we can get hackers to these channels of influence, and when they come, we're like, okay, we need to build this constitution or this database and then populate it. That's a technical goal which a hacker can really associate with. And then beyond that, we want to try and achieve the most successful hackathon we have on campus is something called Dance Marathon. So the reason why it's so successful is it's an extremely social event. So on the one side, you've got this giant party going on where people are dancing to raise money for AIDS, and on the other side, you have a hacker room where you've got 60 to 80 hackers who are there for 24 hours. And the way we draw those hackers into Dance Marathon is, again, doing it in a very social manner, where people get personal messages, they come along with their dorms, with their friend groups, and they've got this atmosphere going along. So utilizing something like this for Hack for Egypt could be a powerful way to get more hackers. So we can build something like Constitution Explorer. Yeah.